Hello and welcome to the Yeatsy Guitar YouTube channel. I've got something a bit different on the workbench this time. Normally I'm working on amps, but we've got a pedal here, and this is my own personal pedal. So this is obviously a vintage Deluxe Memory Man, and it is my favorite pedal of all time. I absolutely love this thing. It has become a huge part of my sound. And yeah, this is a part of my live board, and I've gone, through great lengths to ensure it's always on me, even with the attached 3-prong and the size of it. So what is the issue? Well, it functions perfectly fine. However, there's one flaw with this that I need to figure out a solution to because it's becoming an issue playing live. And that is the fact that there's no status LED. So what I mean by that is when I activate the pedal, there's no light to tell me that the pedal is activated or not. Now, this version is non-true bypass. So it is always in the signal chain, always affecting the tone. So a solution someone might have for a different pedal like this is to have it in a loop, an AB loop, for example, and then that has an LED. That way you don't have to modify the vintage pedal, and you just hit that and bring it in and out of the signal chain. Two issues with that with these pedals. One, this is not true bypass, so the preamp in this affects the tone quite a bit. I personally love that. It adds gain and warmth to the sound. So if you were to take this out of the signal chain, I would lose volume and lose gain. So I don't want that, right? You don't want to have all of a sudden when you turn on your delay, your sound is louder and more gainy. That's just not ideal. The other element is I'm about 80% sure this flips the phase when it is in the signal chain. I haven't confirmed that, but it seems pretty likely, and most of these kind of units do that. So if I run a wet dry rig, which is what I typically do live, that's a massive issue. So that rules that out and kind of just leaves us with the option of modifying it. But there are a few different ways to modify this. So you can see I already removed the knobs because I started diving into this, and then I thought, I better film it because I'm not sure anybody's ever filmed this before. I'm not sure anyone's even really talked about this in any great length, modifying a Deluxe Memory Man to have a status LED. So I'm going to take you guys along for the journey like I do for all of my other content on this channel. For better or worse, you guys will see the process. So really quick, what are our options here? You've got two LEDs existing. The power LED is always on when it's plugged into the wall and flipped to the on mode. That just means the pedal has power. It does not change when I do that, right? So this is not helpful to us. And then this right here is the overload LED, which is just part of the circuit telling you if the preamp is being overloaded or the input's being overloaded. It's always being overloaded. This is kind of useless. So those are our two options to hijack because neither are really serving a purpose that matters for me. So we will look into both to see which is the best to try and hijack the LED and connect it to a new switch. So let's go and flip the pedal over. Try and hold the PCB as I do it. See what we got working here. So the switch you can see there, hopefully, is a single pole switch here. I thought it would be a 2 PDT. However, it's obviously not. So what I purchased to replace that is a 3 PDT, this right here, triple pole. And this is not necessary to have 3. You can get by, I believe, with doing a 2 PDT with what I'm hoping to be able to do today. So just keep that in mind. But this is a really nice soft click Gorva. In a quiet moment before the next song, hitting this, turning the pedal on, it's kind of like a shotgun. It's very loud, so I'm looking forward to having a soft switch in this, assuming everything works out. So let's go ahead and lift the board up and out of the way a little bit. See what we're working with here. So first and foremost, this is the overload LED right here. So we can see there's two leads here, one providing presumably power and ground for that. And then the other power LED is right here. You can see they're both kind of gooped up. And that also has a a white and a black lead doing the same thing. So just immediately looking at this, the foot switch here, the LED here, this makes much more sense to hijack because I can easily run wires here versus having to get something that's completely covered by the board. So we're just in also the overload. I'm not sure if there's additional things it's doing in the circuit. So we're just going to ignore this one completely and look over here at the power LED as our source. So now looking at the circuit board kind of flipped upside down or right side up, depending on your perspective, these two wires again are going to the LED we want to hijack. and then we've got this resistor here. So as I'm learning, because I've never worked on a pedal before, as I'm learning, I've never worked with LEDs before, the resistor is basically dropping the voltage down to what the LED can handle. So if you give an LED, I guess all LEDs, most LEDs, not sure, but if you give them 9 volts, for example, they will burn out. It won't work. So any pedal that has an LED, as far as I understand, is going to have a resistor bringing down the voltage to a more manageable level. I believe 3 volts is the goal with an LED, or kind of the maximum, if you will. Don't quote me on that. I'm learning, but I believe that's roughly the case. So this resistor right here should be the one that is bringing down the voltage. So we should have higher voltage on this side and lower voltage, i.e. sub 3 on this side, powering the LED. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on, plug it in, turn it on, and get out our multimeter and try and see what we're working with here. Alrighty, so we got the switch back here. Let's go ahead and turn it on. You should see the LED light up. Hopefully you can see that. It's quite faint. This is the resistor, and then this is the 2 connections for the LED. So in theory, we should be seeing higher voltage here, less voltage here, and then presumably this lead right here, which would be the, looks like the white, would be the power for the LED to function. So let's just go ahead and grab this, see what we're working with. On this side, we should be seeing sub 3. We're seeing negative 1.8. Now, in my research I did before shooting this video, this, I guess, has a negative polarity circuit. I'm not sure what it's called exactly, so the voltage is negative. I don't fully understand the reasoning for that, but I was told to expect that. So 1.8 volts, we'll just look at it like that, is quite a bit less than 3. So there is room to make that LED quite a bit brighter should we choose to. And then presumably on this side, we should get no voltage, which is the case. So then this white wire right here will be the one getting us power. And then on this side of the resistor, we should be seeing quite a bit more. Yeah, so we're seeing 21 volts on this side. So that resistor, we'll have to check the value of it, but that resistor is bringing it from 21 volts on one side down to 1.8 volts on the other side. So be very careful. Okay, so we've found our location. Now, what I want to do is do some tests to try and figure out if we can, A, get this to work. I've never wired up a 3 PDT before, so that'll be a first for me, and I've never wired up an LED before. So I've got a 3 PDT, and I've got an LED here to play with before we do anything to the circuit itself. So let's go ahead and flip it off and just kind of situate everything here a little bit more. I'm going to grab some alligator clips right here, and we're going to try and see if we can figure this out live on air. Actually, what I'm going to do first is remove the power from the wall, and then we're going to go ahead and check the resistor value that was providing the voltage for the LED to work. So let's just check what the value is. Apologies, you're not really going to be able to see it that well on camera, but you'll be able to see the multimeter here. So we'll go over to resistance measurement and see what this measures. It's brown, blue, red. So brown would be 1, blue would be 6, red would be times 100. So it should be 1600. Yep, so 1.6K. So if we want to make it brighter and get closer to that 3 volts, we would be changing that resistor out for something lower resistance to enable more voltage get through. So if that's a 1.6K, then presumably we could try, I don't know, like we don't want it to be too bright. You know, I'm sure we've all had pedals that are just way too bright. The LEDs are insane. Don't want that. Just want it to be obvious and visible in daylight, hopefully. So let me grab a resistor, and we can kind of put it, take it off of this lead right here. The side of the resistor that is getting all the high voltage, and we will connect a resistor in our own LED over on this side and kind of see what that does, and also connect it to the switch to make sure we kind of got the wiring how we want before we get started and actually taking things apart. Cool, so I've got a quick little test here that will tell us a couple of things. I've got the alligator clip going to the end of the resistor that was getting 20 volts, and that is running over here to a resistor right here. This is a 1K, so we're going to test out a 1K to see what voltage that gives us in this circuit versus the 1.6K that's in there currently, because it is a very dim LED, so I would like it brighter. That is being run from the other end of the resistor to this pole of the switch here. And then the middle pole of the switch has the LED, and the other end of the LED goes to ground. So let's go ahead and see what this gives us. We'll go ahead and connect this right here to see the voltage that we're seeing at the LED leg. And hopefully we're not going to burn this out, but I do have extra LEDs if we do. So let's test it. First, turn it on. And immediately it works. So that's great news. We are seeing, so it went from, was it 1.8 to 1.9? So going from 1.6K to 1K is a very small difference in voltage that comes out. So that's kind of interesting. Now, if I push this switch in, presumably the LED will turn off, and it does. Okay, so that looks like we have it wired correctly then. Let's see if we try a different value resistor. I'm not sure what I have around, but let me check real quick. You know, on second thought, the LED was kind of pointed away from me, so it didn't look like that bright. But now that it's pointed up at me, it looks plenty bright, I think. I'm not sure if it'll show up on camera, but it's significantly brighter than the original. It could also be that that LED that's in there now is just an older LED and doesn't have as much brightness capability. So that could be a thing as well. So we might have to play with it more, but we're going to have to use that LED to make that final call. But at least we did a test and we can confirm this is how to wire it. So in thinking about this further, I had another idea. Well, you could, instead of kind of taking the hot side and switching it, you could take the ground side and switch it. So as a quick test, I'm running the alligator clip now on the side that is post resistor, so the roughly 1.8 volts. That's going to the outer lug, and same as the resistor's, you know, hot end. And then we are switching the ground side here of the resistor in and out of circuit when you press on it. So when I push this in, it'll turn off. You see there it's turning both off because they're connected right now. But yeah, so that's another option. So we could switch the ground or switch the hot. They both effectively do the same thing. I'll just have to think if one makes more sense or not for one reason or another. I'm back with a plan. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to try and avoid having to touch the PCB at all. So what that means is that we're going to retain this white and black lead from the PCB. And instead, we're going to break the connection at the LED itself. So let me zoom in a little bit, see if I can show you guys. So hopefully you can see that. Let me grab a pointer somewhere. Hopefully you can see that right here. So they're basically just tack soldered on the wire coming off the PCB to the LED here. This is the ground one, this black one right here. So what I'm thinking is I can just desolder this connection and run that wire to the switch, and then the other end of the switch, the switched end, will go back and connect to the LED, basically completing the circuit for the LED when it is turned on. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that. It is a bit tight to fit a soldering iron in there, but I think it's doable. And the ground just seems like the easier one to reach versus this one, which has got more wires to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and set up for that. And this should be a very easy mod, hopefully, that will look indistinguishable from stock, you know, if you want to revert it back, which there's no way I would ever sell this pedal, so I have no desire to do that. But in case you're watching and might be thinking about that, this should be pretty simple if you know how to solder. So first things first, I think we'll just go ahead and, yeah, let's just go ahead and see if we can disconnect this and see how viable that is. Hopefully it's not too hard. All right, so we got some stuff in the way, so we got to be pretty careful here, but we should be able to reach it. Only issue for me is I've got a camera in my face, which makes it a bit harder to see what I'm doing, but at this point I should be experienced enough with soldering the camera in my way to be able to get this done. So I do have a finer tip on the soldering iron than I would normally use. And then hopefully we should be able to just kind of pull it up and out of the way. Beautiful, super easy. And now let's just go ahead and run this wire. And then we just need to hook up a lead from here now to run down to the switch. So let me see if I have any solid core wire that'll be easy to connect there. Okay, I've got my replacement wire. We can compare the original to what I have here. They look very, very similar. This is a slightly thicker gauge, but the insulation's pretty thin, so it looks about the same. So we're just going to go ahead and try and connect this. First, I'm going to tin it just to get it to connect easily. Like so. Then we're just going to go ahead and feed it in here, and this is where it'll get a little tricky, but I don't think it'll be too bad. All right, just like that, we should be good to go. Visually inspect it, looks solid. You can see it moving the LED with it, so it looks good there. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the switch. So here's our switch. So let's go ahead and desolder everything. So I've already noted where the wires go, and I think I understand how it needs to be hooked up to the new switch, but it will be a bit of a trial and error, I'm sure. Let's go to our old switch here. Make note of the little key on here, which is pointed down. So we will match that with the new switch. Little key right here, pointed down, so we will install it this way. All right, so we've got the new switch installed here, and now we can go ahead and take the wire for the LED. Let's run that actually over the white wire. All right, something like that. So let's go ahead and solder that in. Let's turn down the heat a little bit for this. Beautiful. Then we've got this. This is to complete the circuit. Hoping this wire is not too big for the for the switch holes here. We'll find out in a second. Perfect. That looks great. Okay, making progress here, folks. We're going to leave the middle row alone and just put everything else on this side here. So this gray, if I am understanding correctly, this is going to the blend control wiper, I believe, which would make this, again, if I understand correctly, with the help of some friends on Facebook, new friends, shout out to you guys, this would be the FX out, which I think should go here, which is the same placement it was on the old one. Let's kind of just hook that around. These last two I'm less certain on. There's a good chance I'll have to flip these around. I'm not 100% sure. I think the brown is the buffered bypass and the red is the output. I'm not 100% sure though. So we're going to assume that is correct, and then, yeah, like I said, we might have to change it. And last but not least, brown down here. Okay, moment of truth. We've got all hooked up, I think, correctly. So just now the last thing to do is get this guy out of here. And there we go. And see if we've got the switching the LED for us. And if not, you know, we got to figure it out. But if we do, we're still not out of the woods yet because we have to test to make sure the signal is going through correctly. So everything looks good visually to me. I think we're good to go to test it. Don't worry about this ground. This is just a shielding for the back cover, by the way. So it doesn't really affect anything. So let me go ahead and plug her in. Flip it on. And we have an LED lit. Let's see if I turn it off. Heck yeah. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. That seems to be working. All right, now let's go ahead and plug a guitar cable into it, into an amp, and make sure signal is passing okay. All right, I have no idea if the knobs are, you know, turned in a way that will give us an obvious delay for you guys to hear. So I'm hoping they are. So stupid me, all of the pots were turned all the way to their minimum. So I turned everything up about halfway from what I could see. And let's go ahead and flip the pedal on. Are we on right now? We are on right now. Okay, but no LED is on, so we should get no delay. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Turn the amp up just in case. So no delay, no light on. We press the foot switch. Light on. There we go, baby. It is working. Now the question is the LED bright enough, or do we need to change that resistor? I'm hoping it's bright enough, so let me flip it around and let's find out. Okay, so I've got it flipped over and just slightly tightened so the PCB doesn't fall out. We've got it turned on, and I'll show real quick. Turn level down a little bit, blend down a little bit. There we go. I'm so happy, guys. Oh, yes, I'm so happy it worked. So just to once again demonstrate, grab the guitar and try and show you just really quickly here. So nothing. And turn it on. There you go. Deluxe Memory Man status light mod is done. And you can't tell any difference from the top. The new switch is a little shinier than the old one, but that'll change over time, obviously, especially since I gigged this, so it'll get a lot of use. But I am so ecstatic. So thank you guys so much for watching and following along with this little journey. Really appreciate all of you guys that stick around for this kind of fairly tedious content. So if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and until next time, see ya.